Hi, I hope you are having an amazing day. Thanks so much for watching this video. Today I just want to do a chatty video about when to listen to advice from others and when to ignore it when we're in our 20s, which I'm 26, guessing you might be around the same age-ish. We have to often make a lot of difficult decisions. We're trying to figure out what to do. Might involve chasing a big dream or changing careers or moving city or anything like that. And there will be a lot of opinions that you'll get in the form of advice from other people, and it can be really hard to know who to listen to and who not to. So I just thought I would chat about some of my experiences and what I have learned, and I really hope that it'll help you. So if you have been thinking about making a big decision or you're getting a lot of mixed advice from everyone, then make sure you keep watching this video. So the first thing I want to say is that the main person you need to listen to is yourself. And I'm not going to hop on about it because I'm sure you have heard that a million times, but only you know all the circumstances, only you know how you feel about things. And I think that gut feeling is so important to listen to, because you're the one that's going to have to live with your decision. And I'm sure you've experienced it. As soon as you come up with, you're making a decision and you've got different options, you do get that gut feeling when you think about a certain option of yeah, I feel like that's right. And often we'll try to rationalize ourselves out of that decision and into another one that we feel like we should make. But I think we usually have that gut instinct, and I have been trying to practice really tuning into that gut instinct, listening to it, and not letting myself do the opposite, because often the rational option isn't the same as the one that's my gut instinct. But I just so strongly believe that the only way to really live life is to listen to your gut instinct. And that doesn't mean it's going to be right 100% of the time, but by making decisions based on that feeling, you will, calibrate it, if that makes sense. You will end up making better decisions. And if it doesn't work out, you can say, well, you can take responsibility for it more easily than, oh, I wish I hadn't listened to so-and-so, they gave me such bad advice. Listen to yourself first. Only you know the answer. And I say that when I'm giving people advice, everything I say is based on my experience and my beliefs, and they might be different to yours. So, take advice on board. I think it is important to listen to other people's advice, but at the end of the day, always put it up against, well, what is my gut instinct and what do I want to do? So if you are trying to do anything that might fail or might not work out, I can guarantee, unless you are extremely blessed to be surrounded by people that are very, very, very supportive, you will come up against people who will try to tell you that you've made a bad decision, that you should just stay in your comfort zone, that you should just, stay right where you are now, don't try and grow, don't try and do anything that might fail. Sometimes they might be saying this from they want to protect you and have extremely good intentions. Sometimes they're doing it more on a subconscious level of, they tried it themselves and it didn't work, and so they want to keep you at their level, so that, it's confronting for someone else who's failed to have someone say, oh, I'm going to go and do that thing that you couldn't do. That's all obviously happening at quite a subconscious level. It never is really said like that, but often, there's that, I don't know if the word analogy is the right word, but if you have a pot of crabs, they're all in a containery thing, and one of them tries to get out, all the others will will pull them back in. And so you're the crab trying to get out and above and go up to that next level, and everyone who's at your current level, not everyone, there are people who will be so supportive, who will want nothing more than for you to succeed and to give it a go even if you might fail. But there will also be the crabs trying to pull you back in, keep you in your comfort zone, keep you safe. There are a million reasons they might be trying to do that. A lot of them, usually they only have good intentions, but there might be some negative limiting beliefs they themselves have. They might be trying to protect you from pain that they experienced when they tried to do a similar thing. Most people, I don't think, give you that advice out of a malicious place, but it can have that effect. And I think it is so important when listening to others' advice to think about what experience has informed that advice, and to really look at why they might be giving you particular advice rather than just thinking about the advice itself. Try to think of it in context and what their agenda might be. Not agenda in the sense that it's something bad, but agenda in the sense that, like, what are they trying to achieve by giving you that advice? Are they really trying to do the best for you, or are they just trying to protect you and keep you safe, and all of that kind of thing? So I think that's really important. And it is so important to surround yourself with people who believe in you as much, if not more, than you do in yourself, and to never let them go. No, sometimes people do need to move on, but if you find someone that is supportive and will just continue to back you, I think, like in my life, I'm trying to surround myself with the people that believe in me. That way it makes my life so much more enjoyable, and it really helps me achieve more, and it helps them achieve more. So if you find those people, do not let go of them easily. They are hard to find. Another thing that I like to do when making decisions is to list the advantages versus advantages. So once you've got all advice from everyone, it can be hard to synthesize it all and to come out with an answer. So what I like to do is to list, instead of a pros and cons list, the advantages and advantages. So with a pros and cons list, I think we can get a little trapped in all the cons, and if we've got a list with like 2 pros and 5 cons and then 10 pros and 10 cons, we try to minimize the cons, the negatives, instead of maximizing the positives. And it's really often that fear-based, like we're trying to do the decision with the least amount of risk. And I find it's hard to weigh up pros and cons of 2 different options and get a good answer. But when you're doing advantages versus advantages, so it's essentially just pros versus pros. So you're listing out all the positives of each. And I find when you do it like that, you might see that one answer that you might have chosen because it had the least amount of cons also doesn't have very many positive things about it, whereas the other one has so much opportunity, and there might be a few potential downsides. But yeah, I think it is such an amazing thing to do, just to do a pros and cons list without the cons, and to really see, to just look at the upside. I'm not saying not to consider any downsides, but I think often our focus is too much on the downside that we totally miss the potential upside. And by trying to protect ourselves from the downside, we end up essentially not growing and not being fulfilled, and we get stuck in a rut. So if you have been struggling with a decision and you haven't tried this yet, I highly recommend trying advantages versus advantages, or pros versus pros. I have written a few things down. Oh, another thing that can be amazing is to ask, how did I write it down? So I wrote down, bring to mind someone you look up to. So that can be someone you know in real life. It could be a celebrity. It could be Oprah. I love Oprah so much, and Tony Robbins, and many, many other people in that world. But, it doesn't have to be someone you know personally, but I guess you need to know enough about them to know what kinds of things they would say. And yeah, ideally it is someone that you really look up to. You don't necessarily need to want to do what they are doing with their life, but they're successful and you like the way that they go about doing things. So they do push themselves, they do try to learn and to grow, and they do take risks and that kind of thing. So bring to mind that person. It could really be any person, dead or alive, in your personal life, or that you don't know personally, and just ask yourself, this might sound a bit woo-woo, but I swear to God it's not. Just ask yourself, I'll use Oprah as an example. Say the decision I made when I was quitting my full-time accounting job for blogging, and I'm just using that as an example because it's a big decision I have made in the last few months. If I ask myself, what would Oprah tell me to do? Should I stay in my job, or should I quit my job to pursue something I love doing and that is growing? And there are all these upsides to it as well. It's not just a hobby anymore. But what would Oprah tell me to do? What would she suggest? And when you think of it that way, well, she wouldn't say, oh, you should just stay in your full-time job. You should really listen to that fear and just stay where you are. I think it is incredible the advice we can get from others without even having to talk to anyone else, just thinking of people that we know, whether in real life or not, and that we look up to, and asking, well, what advice would they give me about this situation? And I think it's just a really good way we can give ourselves a little pep talk, because when we ask it like that, the right decision is usually quite clear. Another thing as well is to ask yourself, the people that are giving you these, so this is going back off the Oprah one and all of that, the people in your real life who are saying, oh, do you really think you should do that? Or what about that 6.5 years you spent at uni? You're not going to do anything with those degrees. That's what I get now. To ask yourself whether the people that are giving you advice practice what they preach, and to really, take advice more so from their actions rather than what they say. So they're telling you to do a certain thing, but they themselves don't actually do it. It's like if someone is telling you to, you shouldn't eat that thing, it's not very healthy, you should eat this instead, but they're eating a bag of chips or whatever. Do they, I know that's a weird example, but do they practice what they preach, or are they just giving you advice that they themselves don't even take? So I think that's something important as well to consider. Another thing I want to say is you don't need everyone's approval. If you're a perfectionist like me, you probably have a fear of judgment and criticism, which means you end up wanting to please everyone. The people that love you only want you to be happy and will ultimately support any decision you make that you believe will make you happier and more fulfilled. And I'm not saying that doesn't mean you won't be challenged, but the people that are truly there for you will support you in the things that you want to do. There might be a few weeks of, they're trying to wrap their head around whatever it is you're trying to do. But at the end of the day, the people that love us only want us to be happy. I believe they don't necessarily care what career title we have or how much money we're making. They more so just want us to be in that frame of mind where we are growing and learning and feeling fulfilled with what we're doing. So that's one thing. The people that don't love you and the people that aren't worth your time might care more so about your career title and all that kind of shit, and fuck them. Basically, they there will never be everyone that's happy with the decisions you make, and we all know that intellectually, but I've just found it really interesting that I used to care so much about what other people will think, and as soon as I started to let go of caring, I realized no one really cared. Like, I truly realized, like, I always knew it was true, but I truly realized no one really cares what I'm doing, in the nicest way. But that I don't need to please everyone, and that it's most important that I please myself. So I think that is really, really important as well. And yeah, there will always be people that try to keep you in your comfort zone and protect you from pain and being challenged. And it can be hard, especially if most of the people in your life aren't doing much themselves to learn and grow, to be the one carving out your own path. But I think, well, to me, I think that's really the point of life, to learn and to grow. And yeah, I couldn't even imagine, like, I'm not saying everyone needs to want to have big goals, but if you have them, don't let the other people stop you from chasing them. And I think when you chase them, you really have to chase. And it is a lot easier if you have people around you that will, you know, lift you up and make that easier, rather than people constantly questioning, you know, is it, you're like, what am I trying to say? Whether you have people constantly being like, oh, should you have done that? Oh, I wouldn't have done that. You should be doing this instead. You're wasting your time. Like, I also think on this note, it's really interesting when you're giving advice to other people, and like, I think about this too because I give advice to people quite often, is like, when I'm giving advice, like, do I practice what I preach? I try my hardest. Like, my goal with a lot of this stuff is to be an example and to practice what I preach. So when I talk about developing discipline and not relying on motivation, I practice that every day. I don't always nail it, but I am practicing it. I'm not saying, you know, I'm really only talking about things I actually am doing or am trying to do. So if you're giving, and like, one of the things I read in, I think it was in Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, he was talking about, I'm pretty sure it was that book, would you take money advice or financial advice from someone that has no money? Well, the answer to that is obviously no, you wouldn't, but a lot of us do take financial advice from people without a very good financial life. And, you know, they're telling us to save money and all these different ways to do it, and yet they themselves aren't doing it. I also heard this really good quote that I think about quite a lot, which is, whatever poor people read, don't read that, or something like that. But not saying like you need to be rich, but like the people who don't have their financial life sorted, like they have a lot of stress around that, they're in a job they hate, like what are they consuming on a daily basis? It's kind of feeding that, you know, they're watching the news, and that is a lot of the news, as much as we like to think it keeps us as informed citizens, a lot of it is car crashes and a lot of fear mongering by the media so that we keep watching it because we want to know what we should be scared of. That's just my opinion. But and this is a whole other topic, but I don't watch the news or read the news, and I might ask people like, oh, is there anything happening in the world at the moment that, you know, has been interesting or whatever, and I get news that way. There's obviously a big event, it gets talked about, but it hasn't really affected my life. And sure, I might not be as informed as the next person, but in terms of my mindset and positivity, I cannot tell you how much easier it was to really believe in myself and to go after my dreams once I stopped surrounding myself with media and people that were saying, no, you should be scared, you shouldn't do anything, you should just stay safe in your house, and not even try. So that's a bit of a side note, but I find that really making an effort to surround yourself with those friends, mentors, people from your work, whoever it is that really leaves you feeling energized and inspired and makes you believe in yourself, keep hanging out with them. And the people that leave you feeling drained and doubtful, I'm not saying cut them from your life, but really make sure you don't take advice from them. And like if they're not happy, so the advice they give you is a reflection of their mindset, like the advice from anyone, and their mindset has got them to where they are today. So if where they are today is somewhere that you don't want to be, like obviously they have somewhere, they're going to grow and whatever, but if they're in an extremely negative frame of mind and nothing seems to ever work out for them and they're very distrustful of people, I'd just be cautious of taking advice, because I just think it's good to take advice from people who are doing things you want to be doing. So everyone has everyone will go through different challenges and that kind of thing, and I think I wouldn't write someone off if they haven't been as supportive as you'd like, but I think that just really surrounding yourself with those people that will give you good advice and support you once you have made that decision. But at the end of the day, trust your gut. You're the only one that knows what to do. If you need to tune into your gut a bit more, do advantages versus advantages, and you will see which one you think is the right option. And then once you've made a decision, make it a strong one. Don't try and backpedal out of it, because with any big decision, when you're trying to grow and evolve, your brain will freak out because it's out of its comfort zone and you're trying to do something new. So yeah, I really think expect the freakouts to happen once you've made that decision. So it's important to make a strong one and to decide to persist. It's going to be a roller coaster regardless of what decision you make, and just because you have a freak out and self-doubt and fear doesn't mean you've made the wrong decision. If it's like a fear that you might fail, I'd say you probably made the right decision. You're just freaking out because you're outside your comfort zone. If it's really a different kind of fear of you can have that oh shit, I really have made the wrong decision. Listen to that gut instinct too. I know it's this isn't clear-cut advice, because nothing really is clear-cut, and we can only make the best decisions we can with the information we have at the time. So I think as long as we're doing that and we listen to ourselves and we surround ourselves with supportive people, that is really when to list, I don't know what I'm trying to say. That is my advice for when to listen to other people's opinions and when to listen to your own. So yeah, that is all I really wanted to chat about today. I hope you have found it helpful. If you have, make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I post a new video every single day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.